Next division we have is one that's very near and dear to my heart. Let's have a standing ovation. I'd like a standing ovation for the Barebow division. Let's give it up for the Barebow guys. 125 competitors. 125 competitors from all over the country. Richard Barker chooses to shoot on the right. He was the fourth place guy in. He seeded 14th and climbed his way up to 4th. Rich Barker hails from the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area. We see you nearly every day, Rich, and congratulations, you made it to the big stage.
So fortunate to live so close by to Lancaster Archery.
Well, congratulations on getting here.
Hello, John, how are you doing?
Doing great, how are you?
Okay, Rich will be shooting against Bobby Worthington. Bobby will be shooting on the left. Bobby qualified in 12th and has worked his way up to 3rd. Bobby was here on the stage last year and put on a heck of a show last year. Bobby, welcome back to Lancaster Archery.
Much obliged.
Okay, I believe you're on the left stage. Rich, you'll be on the right. Go ahead and take your position.
And this is Teresa Johnson. Welcome back to the Lancaster Archery Classic. And welcome. We have got
Matt Zernzak from the Push Archery. How are you guys?
Good to see you, Matt. Thank you so much for joining me. We have the Barebow division coming up. We are super excited for this final. This is a division that has grown by leaps and bounds in the past year. Can you tell us a little bit about why this division has grown so much?
Yeah, we've just been pushing this on social media. John Wirt, Lancaster, I mean, the fact that you guys have the Barebow up on the big stage, which typically on most tournaments they kind of stick us in a corner. And so last year's Barebow video was the highest viewed video of all the finals from the Lancaster Classic 2017.
And let's see why. So we have got a great match here between Richard Barker, who's shooting right now, and Bobby Worthington, who we saw last year.
All right,
Can
nice
you
nine.
tell us a little bit about what makes a Barebow setup different from an Olympic recurve setup?
Absolutely. So Barebow is basically just a stripped down Olympic recurve. Typically we're shooting 25-inch metal risers, ILF risers. They are weighted differently. As you can see there, that's a C&D archery made by Dewayne Martin, who will be competing in Barebow here shortly. And we are allowed to add as much weight as we want below the shelf, but we have to be able to fit through a 12.2 centimeter ring.
Okay.
And so that means you can't have any clickers, no stabilizers, and you have a plunger and an elevated rest.
When one archer shoots, the other archer's clock starts immediately. So as your opponent is shooting, everybody will need to take and load up and be ready. We didn't make that clear. I apologize, Bobby.
So it looks like we're going to just kind of see in here what we're doing, and it looks like Bobby's going to take a shot.
Yeah,
looks like there was just a little misunderstanding about the timing.
Sure.
Here goes Bobby.
Here we go. There we go. That didn't phase him.
Not at all. Nope, nope. Really sweet 10, maybe even an 11.
Oh, they're calling an 11. That's beautiful.
Now, when we watch Barebow shooting, one of the things that people are often puzzled by is the tape on the nose.
Sure.
Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. A typical Olympic anchor is under the chin, and you have the string kind of in front along your lip and up on the tip of your nose, so your nose isn't in the string path. Well, we aim using the tip of the arrow. The front of the arrow, the tip of the arrow is basically a single pin sight for us. And so we're changing the trajectory by maybe changing our anchor point on our face or crawling down the string, as you see Richard Barker here doing, crawling down the string, changing the launch angle of the arrow. And you can see with this really high anchor, to get our point on here at 20 yards, we want to stick the tip of our arrow somewhere around that gold to help us kind of, obviously aim the arrow and make it go to the center. And that puts your nose right in the middle of the string path sometimes. And so after 60 arrows of scrubbing that, typically you're a pretty bloody mess.
I can imagine. So we'll go out to Rob here.
And I can tell that they're excited and anxious to see how this works out. I don't think anybody's more excited than me. This year we had 125 archers. Last year we had 51, and 51 was a great field for Barebow archery. It's rare to collect that many shooters. They're that many archers distributed from around the world. I know we have a couple from other countries here, but it's rare to collect that many shooters, but we've brought them here. We have 125 archers. We did make a small rules change this year on the equipment rules. We moved to the World Archery style barebow, and I think we tossed it back and forth. We weren't sure exactly when or if we could make that move. I promised you that if we did make the move, we wouldn't have one less archer than we had last year, and we went from 51 to 125, so I think it was a great success.
It certainly was. John, first of all, thank you to all the barebow archers and to the fans of barebow archery, of single string, unsighted. This is the purest form of archery that there is. And it's near and dear to my heart. It's how I started, and I still shoot barebow myself. If I were shooting the Classic, these are the guys I'd be shooting with. John, I can't thank you enough for all that you do for the barebow community. Could I ask for a round of applause for John Wirt?
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. Let's watch these guys shoot.
So if you're watching from home and you just heard that amazing round of applause for John Wirt, there's just been tremendous growth in this division, as we alluded to earlier. And now we're going to see this competition heat up a little bit. So, despite the fact that these guys don't have sights, they don't have clickers, they don't have stabilizers, they're 1 point apart and they're hitting the target consistently, which is amazing to people who I think are, and here we've got the crawl here. So tell us about that crawl.
So the tab that he's using is one of the barebow sponsors. A bunch of our barebow sponsors or barebow manufacturers came together and put extra money in the pot for us barebow archers to kind of pull in more barebow archers into this tournament. And what a crawl's doing is basically you put your tab up against the arrow, and on that tab there will be indicator marks. And each mark on your tab is worth a different distance. So the further down the string you are, which means that arrow is going to be right under your eye, you're going to anchor in the same spot every single time. So you'll see Rich here slide his tab right up. He marks it on the string and slides his tab down the string, and he's going to anchor in the same spot every time. So he's just changing the pitch of the arrow as it's leaving the bow. And so his 20-yard crawl looks about 3/4 of an inch down the string. My 20-yard crawl is about an inch down the string. It all depends on how long your arrow is, how heavy your arrow is, and your poundage of your limbs.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so what's the practice routine like for somebody who's shooting an event like this? Are they shooting a ton of arrows each day? What are they doing to train?
Yeah, absolutely. It's no different than any other class. It's a mental game. Any one of these guys, I mean, if you look at the 125 barebow archers that were here, half of them had the ability to post a 530 or above. John Demmer had a great 560 plus qualification score. I mean, he's just an absolute animal, and he'll be coming out here on the final matchup. He's sitting in first place seated, and yeah, it's no different than any other class.
We've been sitting here watching all these compound archers compete, and this is a more primitive aiming style, more simple bow, but the game of archery is really the same for the barebow archers, just as compound archers. The game that these guys are playing up here isn't about their equipment. It isn't about the differences between barebow and compound. It's really about how you manage your own energy, your own excitement in a stage like this. So these guys manage it well, or they wouldn't be here. They shot head-to-head against 32 other archers this morning, and they worked their way through that and made it to this stage. I'm proud of both of them and the other archers waiting in the wings for making it here and fighting through that, because it is a struggle, it is a fight. There's a lot of energy and excitement up there, and if you can manage it and channel it in the right direction, you're going to be successful.
Yes, John, you have no needs with barebow. It's strictly your mind, your muscle memory, your basically
there's Richard's crawl there.
And so that shot went a little bit wide. It looks like he landed in the 4. And let's see here what Bobby does.
And you can see Bobby has a real tight anchor to his face, middle finger against an eye tooth in his mouth. A very consistent anchor.
And so that consistent anchor, we talked about that before. There's a difference there with Olympic recurve, obviously. But the reality is, whether you shoot a compound or recurve, you shoot either style of recurve, you have to have that consistent anchor point because it really prevents you from moving all over your face.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is basically your rear sight. So Bobby is a straight gap shooter at this tournament. You can see his fingers come. You can see that fingers come up to the bottom of the knock. His fingers slide right up to the knock, and he anchors on as high an anchor as he possibly can. Now, Richard Barker might not be able to get into his back tension as easily from a higher anchor, so he's going to be at a more comfortable lower anchor right there underneath his cheek, and he's just going to string walk to get the same trajectory as Bobby's attaining with a higher anchor.
And look at that beautiful shot. He absolutely nailed it. That was absolutely terrific. Dead center with an 11.
That's great.
And those 11s are really valuable. They are absolutely the game changer in this competition.
Oh, little hitch there. Nice
Bobby
shot, Bobby.
is out left to the 9. Now we've got a little bit of a gap.
Absolutely. You know, it's really interesting to see these guys. This was probably the most interesting competition matchup here. Oh, nice 9 there from Richard. So Richard is the first time here at the finals at the Classic, and 3 of our 4 barebow archers here, Bobby Worthington, Dewayne Martin, and John Demmer, are returning from last year. Ooh, nice from Bobby.
Beautiful shot.
And so this is going to be, you know, you kind of have a veteran. He's, you know, Richard Barker's coming in with a little bit of a disadvantage. He's never been on the big stage like this. And so this is just going to be a mental fight for Richard. And I'm really excited to see how he's going to shoot, man. That's
He's
a great
pretty
shooting.
solid. I mean,
Absolutely.
check that out. And, you know, Bobby did a really good job here last year in the final. We saw a really fantastic shooting from him. He's also a complete gentleman. He's a class act to shoot with. And look at that.
Oh, man, that's a great group from
Gorgeous
Bobby.
group.
Turning on the heat. So,
Bobby, let me ask you about your equipment here. I see a WFX riser, one of the heavyweight bows of the industry, and one of our sponsors too. WFX from CD Archery helped to allow us to have this class and support it the way we do. CD Archery, Yost Archery, Spigarelli, Gilo, Tradtech, and Galaxy are those barebow sponsors that allowed us to do this. You have Win WinX limbs, a biter plunger, and an AAE rest. Is that the new Mojo weight from Yost Archery on the front there?
I just got that today.
Just put it on today. It looks great. I know it has a way of adjusting to change the center of balance of the bow a little bit to allow you to make that bow stand up better for you. Quickly to Rich's equipment. Rich is shooting a Win 27-inch riser, is that right? Long limbs for a 72-inch bow? Yep. How much weight are you holding, Rich? 34 pounds. Couple of barebow weights on the front, biter plunger, and another Spigarelli rest. Nice equipment. I'm pretty sure I know where you got all of that stuff.
Dangerously close to Lynch.
So we're going to see a little bit of replay action here. And there you go with Richard's shot, and look at that gorgeous shot.
Center punch. Man, with the pressure too.
And there's so much pressure here.
Oh, looks like Bobby caught something.
Just a little bit, it almost looked like a little bit of a collapse at the end of that shot there. Caught him off guard. So we've got a really nice balance here. We've got a perfectly tied score. This is always what you want to see. Chuck was saying that earlier. You always want to see this going into that final end. And these guys are so evenly matched. Do you think either one of them really has the advantage right now, or you think it's anyone's game?
No, it's anyone's game. The only advantage would be maybe to Bobby Worthington from being here before and competing at a higher level than Rich has. Rich is a very seasoned competitor, but Bobby has brought home more titles, and I think that's the mental game. You know, barebow is such a fun sport, fun class. They're out to the 8 there.
A little bit high.
And so barebow is so cool because it can be decided with one arrow. We don't have that cam rolling over like a compound or that back aperture or front aperture.
Beautiful
nice
shot
from Bobby. So you will see a wildfire in one of these 4 matches. It's guaranteed it's going to happen. And that's the cool thing about this class.
It's really interesting, too, to see, you know, just the similarities between barebow. We talk a lot about how barebow is different, but there are a lot of similarities between barebow and Olympic recurve and compound, for that matter.
Absolutely. The positions and movements are the same, and it's a mental game.
And these guys are world-class competitors.
They absolutely are.
How was so men and women are combined for the Barebow class this year, correct?
They were.
And how is the female participation this year compared to last year?
I think it was up slightly. We got a lot of female competitors wanting to be involved in the movement to get this going, and we also there was a separate women's payout for the #1 woman barebower, which is cool, and that was made possible by our great sponsors of this Barebow division: Tradtech, Spigarelli, Gillo, Yost Archery, CD Archery, and Galaxy.
Nice. Let's go out to Rob here.
I think unofficially that's Rich Barker. Congratulations, Rich.
Bobby, it looks like you take 4th place. $450, Bobby, for 4th place.
Thank you.
Nice shooting.
Appreciate y'all putting this on. Great job. You're doing a lot for archery. We sure do thank Lancaster.
Well, we can't thank the Barebow community enough. It's truly humbling to see everybody here. You guys have the best time of anybody in the room. There's a sense of community, sense of helping each other. It's truly what sport and what archery is all about. And thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Rick, you started shooting just a few years ago. When did you start? I started shooting.
So we're super excited now to see what comes up next. Now, we've got a tough field to get through. If you're Richard Barker, we're seeing right here his first shot, and then we're going to see also his last shot. And look at the nerves just a little bit, but he's just determined.
That's right.
So if you're Richard Barker, you've got a tough field to get through now, right?
Absolutely. Now, the nice thing that Richard has going for him now that he's through that first round is he has a little momentum.
And we are back after that brief break. And here we are back in action with Dewayne Martin facing off against Richard Barker, who advanced past the last match.
Absolutely. Yeah, Richard Barker coming out big, knocking out a giant in Bobby Worthington. Now he has to face yet another giant. And he steps up.
That is not bad. Now,
that's awesome.
So the format here at the Lancaster Archery Classic, if you're just tuning in at home, you might know by now or may not know, but the archer who advances basically has to face a few different opponents if they want to. So in other words, Richard has a bit of an uphill battle starting from the first match if he wants to win this division. So the advantage to Richard is he's warmed up now.
Wow, yes, that's 2 10s, great 2 shots.
Whereas Dewayne, he's just getting a read on the lighting.
That's right.
He's just getting a read on the platform, because they are on an elevated platform, which I know our audience at home may not see every time, but they are for sure on an elevated platform. This is a really interesting finals venue, and there's a huge crowd in here.
Absolutely. And another thing is, as simple as Barebow looks like, when you get into the details, you start getting into the details. And we do have rear sights through using string blur.
Yep.
We see the blur of the string in our peripheral, and we line it up against the risers.
Dewayne, we'll ask you a little bit about your gear. You know it better than I. You want to describe what it is?
Yep, it's a CD Archery WFX Light, 25-inch Sebastian flute limbs. I shoot a biter plunger and an AAE rest.
Very nice. I understand you have a little bit to do with the design and making of that riser.
Yeah, I'm one of the partners. I'm the D part of C&D, so yes, me and Calvin Smock own and operate C&D Archery. And I also shoot Carbon Express arrows again this year.
Very nice. Dewayne, you're always a tough competitor in any barebow game, and we welcome you to the Lancaster Archery stage. Nice shooting, both of you, to open up. Looks like Rich has a very strong start. 29-25 leads Dewayne Martin. You choose to shoot first or second, Rich? First. Rich chooses to open up and shoot first.
So we have got Richard getting started here, and we're excited to see what he's got in him because he's really been just lighting it up so far.
He's hot.
Now tell me a bit about Dewayne. So if you're competing against him up on that stage, is there anything that Richard's thinking about in terms of Dewayne specifically as a competitor?
If he starts thinking about Dewayne as a competitor, then he's going to falter. I think Richard's up there just thinking about his shot, and it shows. I mean, he's on fire right now, and I don't, you know, like you said, the lighting is big. We started nice 8 there. We started talking about that Richard probably figured out his string blur or the lighting on the arrow, on the tip of the arrow, on where to aim, because we're using the tip of the arrow, and sometimes shadows will play into that on what we think is the center line of the arrow as we're aiming on that center of that target.
Gotcha. So here we see the grip on the bow, and because there's no stabilizer out in front, this is a little bit different. Where with an Olympic recurve setup, you'd often see the bow fall forward.
That's right.
Of course, there's no stabilizer in here. So what are you doing at the end? Are you relaxing your grip? Are you grabbing the bow? What's happening
Nope,
there?
you're just letting it fall where it may, and you can see the barebow weights down at the bottom of the riser. We like to weight it up. See, Richard has 2 barebow weights down there. We like it when that arrow goes off. You like to just see it balance straight up and down. It's not going to fall forward like an Olympic bow.
Gotcha. So here we're going to see that grip again, and look at that. So he just lets the bow jump forward a little bit. That makes sense. And both of them, I noticed, are using what we call wrist slings, which means that they're really just attached to the bow by the wrist. We'll go out to Rob.
One thing you'll notice is Rich is moving his fingers a bit down the string below his arrow nock. Dewayne's fingers are directly against the arrow nock. They're both using the tip of the arrow and the profile of the arrow extending out in front of them as an aiming point and placing it somewhere on the target face. Some archers put it directly on the yellow spot. Some archers put it just a little under or sometimes off to the side. But you can see that Rich is actually achieving that sight picture or aiming by moving his fingers down the string, which is called string walking. We brought this up last year in the same situation, and I want to make sure I'm more clear this year in what these archers are doing and why they're doing it. What it does is it raises the tail of the arrow in his vision so that he can then use that arrow tip on the target where he wants to use it. It's a primitive way of aiming.
So we're going out to replay right now. We just saw Richard Barker. Now we're taking a look at Dewayne. And take a look at the way he releases there. He's definitely using back tension to execute his shot.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about that in your own shooting?
Absolutely. Same principles apply. You want to pull with your back, make sure you're directionally moving in the right direction. You're wanting to use those large muscles in your back, bone-on-bone support, strong bow side, and a nice even pull through. And again, we don't have clickers in this class right now with World Archery rules, so there are things you can do. I'm personally running a feather to nose psycho trigger to where I will draw back and anchor, and that feather will be just about maybe 2 millimeters away from my nose, and I'll use back tension and engage and continue to pull until that feather touches my nose, and that'll trigger a shot just like a clicker.
Okay, that is totally brilliant because I come from the Olympic recurve side and some compound shooting, but mostly Olympic recurve. And you know, I've been watching the barebow shooters all week and thinking, oh gosh, I'd really love to try barebow.
Sure.
But then I keep thinking, well, what about the clicker? So that answers it.
There's a lot of
awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options. There's a lot of different options out there to trigger it. Joel Turner from Shot IQ has a grip sear option. That's really good. Yeah, so where you draw back and you're not actually dynamically expanding, but you have a little piece of plastic or a polished edge on your riser, and you just continue to focus on pressing and increasing pressure of your fingernail against the front of the riser.
Oh, that's
and when it
super
pops off,
interesting.
that's what triggers you to release your shot. And there's been a lot of barebow archers this weekend shooting and using psycho triggers like that.
That's fascinating, and just hearing the equipment explanation for those at home who are listening and learning about barebow for the first time. If you weren't excited about barebow by now, I really hope you're getting there, because I think this is the division that's going to continue to grow. Look at that beautiful bow hand release, and it's flawless. That's a beautiful. If it's not a 10, it's just out, and same thing there. So what I am seeing is so much similarity. I mean, not to say we all love what makes us different and celebrate that in archery, but I think that we're a lot closer together than we all think we are.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny, as you take pieces of equipment away or induce rules to make it harder, we're competitors, and
Yeah.
we're not gonna leave points on the table. So we're gonna find out tricky ways to get around the rules.
Yeah, this is super impressive. Beautiful shooting here from all of you guys.
Let's give them a hand.
Special Barebow trophy this year was awarded to the top female qualifiers. We don't have a separate women's class for Barebow. We just didn't have enough competitors to justify that class. Our goal, obviously, is to have that class in the next year or two. The top female competitors in the qualification round, in third place was Jennifer Stoner. She's taking home $150 and one of those. Congratulations, Jennifer. She's taking one of those stainless steel Barebow trophies we have home and $150. In second place, who beat Jennifer on criteria, was Carol Richards. She's taking home $250. Congratulations, Carol. And our top female competitor, who actually had a lead on Dewayne for part of their elimination round, and she was disappointed because she got knocked out by Dewayne last year, and she thought that maybe I had pulled something and got her to shoot against Dewayne again this year. But Fawn was shooting really, really strong, and Dewayne just came back on fire, and he knocked her out. But Fawn is going to take home money from both ends. She's taking home $750 as the top female qualifier. Congratulations, Fawn.
So we're going to go ahead and just take a quick look here at this replay. And Richard just on fire
Yes,
today.
he
I
really
mean,
is.
the man is just going to be very tough to beat. I would not want to shoot against him.
First time up
Really
here.
the first time. That's incredible. And Dewayne is a seasoned competitor on the other hand. You see he's a U.S. archery team member. He's been very tough to beat. I think he was a world team member as well.
Absolutely.
Let's just come back a little bit to the women really quickly. So we heard a little bit about the women's participation. How tough is that division getting now that there's increased participation
Oh, my.
there? How is that competition in the women's
I
side?
tell you what, the likes of Fawn Gerard, Jennifer Stoner, and I mean young females like Sydney Phipps, 14 years old. I mean, I put Sydney up against any one of these guys any day. I mean, just so good. I don't think there's been a 3D or an indoor competition that I've showed up and Fawn was shooting that she didn't whoop me. I mean,
That's
she is
wonderful
just,
to hear.
she's fantastic. She's unbelievable.
And so it's really interesting to see because this is a mixed division class right now.
Right now.
And that offers up a little bit of an interesting dynamic there. It gives you a chance to have a lot of bragging rights, I guess.
Absolutely.
So let's see these final arrows here. We've had such an interesting match, and
Ooh, nice shot.
Richard has just absolutely gone out
Yes.
there and killed it today.
Unbelievable. Let's see what Dewayne does here. Nice shot there too.
So good shot, but in the end, this goes to Richard Barker.
That's unbelievable. That was so good.
Dewayne, thank you for coming and competing with us. I think you've made a great success just by being here and being part of this final shoot down. It was a struggle to make it through that elimination today. I saw some unbelievable shooting out there. Thank you again for coming, and thank you for sponsoring this event.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, the third place. And the payout, I believe, was $650 for third place. Let's give Dewayne Martin a hand.
We are going to head out to a short break in just a moment here, and we will be right back from the Lancaster Archery Classic. And we are back. Are you enjoying your time here in the booth?
I can't tell you what. This is the greatest thing ever. This is such a good show. I'm blown away by Richard's performance. He's knocked down 2 giants in a row. He's on a roll, and he's about to face the man.
He's about to face the man. I was just going to say, John Demmer I mean, and I hope John forgives me for saying this, but he is a beast out
He is a
there.
beast,
I mean, he
yes.
is like world champion.
Yep.
He is going to be super, super tough to beat.
Yep.
He's an incredible competitor. Plus, he has amazing fashion sense.
Of course.
I mean,
wait
it's-
till you see his shoes today.
Absolutely. I mean, he's always got the board shorts, the shoes, the
Yes.
Superman, the graphic tee.
That's right.
And of course, his bows are always as bright as his shoes.
Absolutely, man. He, when you dress that good, you better shoot that good.
That's
and
right.
And he
Here he
delivers. There he
comes.
is.
The man,
Oh, he's jumping his cue. He's jumping his cue.
it's because he's ready to take center stage.
That's right.
Fiercer advocate than John Worth. And we lock horns sometimes, or let's say so. A lot of times it's John and I locking horns with my wife and some of the other people on our staff because we're both advocates for the Barebow community. But believe me, there's no fiercer of advocate than John Worth for everyone, and we're very blessed to have John on our team. I can't imagine doing what we do without John and the Barebow division. And John's equally as talented in setting up an Olympic recurve and helping the JOAD kids and whatnot. We really appreciate all that you do, John.
Thank you, Rob. Now, there is one bigger advocate than me, and I just saw him up on the screen here. Everybody knows one of the most high-profile barebow shooters we have in the industry, in competition right now. It's John Demmer. John is always understated. You can't pick him out in a crowd. John's going to move Rich off his platform that he's been knocking everybody else off from.
If anyone doubts that John Demmer is a fierce competitor, you've just seen it.
We are super excited here. This is like, I have to describe for the audience at home. This place is full. People are cheering for the Barebow division. They are excited. They have got a superhero. I mean, Superman shirt notwithstanding. They've got a real life superhero to get excited about. You have good cameras. You've got photographers. This is the stage that Barebow should have.
Absolutely.
Especially the ride.
It's one of our sponsored risers, the Gillo 27. Really nice riser, makes the limbs, almost every limb nice and smooth. Tradtech limb, another sponsor. Yoast Tab, another sponsor. Spigarelli Rest, Quadfecta.
All of these are our sponsors. Vittorio from Gilo is sitting over here in the crowd, happily watching John compete with his equipment. We wish you the best of luck, John. You've got a stiff competition here in Rich, so we wish you both the best.
We'll get this show on the road.
So let's talk a little bit about what people love so much about Barebow, and we're not going to spend too much time because we want to stay focused on this match. But what is the thing you love the most about shooting Barebow?
It's the challenge and the simplicity, and it kind of brings you back to kind of when you were a kid shooting arrows, is what I've heard from the older crowd getting into Barebow. I mean, it's inexpensive to get into compared to spending hundreds of dollars on stabilizers and sights and sight brackets. It's really neat.
Here we go with John Demmer's first shot.
Oh,
and
good.
he lets it down.
Good
and
stuff
of course,
there.
Here's the advantage now. He's got 6 seconds, 5, 4, 3, and he's no problem on that clock. He's still out into the 8, though. So interesting choice for John. He's shooting skinny arrows.
Yes.
Can we talk about his choice there for a minute? Is that, is it that they get out of the bow a little faster?
Nope.
Tell us about those arrows.
So the arrows, what John likes about these arrows is that since we're using the tip of the arrow to aim off of, it's like using a 40 thousandths thick pin versus an 80 thousandths thick pin.
Gotcha.
But you're sacrificing the line cutting ability, but you're aiming better. So his tip, we interviewed him on our podcast this weekend, following him through the tournament. His tip is only the width of the yellow in his sight picture. Richard Barker's larger, fatter arrows in his sight picture are going to be the width of the red.
Oh, that's interesting. So there's definitely a gain and a loss there potentially.
Absolutely.
So Richard may be a little psyched out. He's out to the left.
Yes, he is.
Okay, we'll let the scores be tabulated. We'll come back to John Demmer. John, those are some interesting footwear you have there. You wear those hunting too?
No, I have something a little bit flashier for hunting. And I do want to make a statement. These were bought on the men's rack. Whether or not somebody moved them to the men's rack, I don't know. But they were on the men's rack.
Always the fashion statement from John Demmer. John, I was honored to host you and John Wirt and several other Barebow archers out at deer camp this past year. So you certainly have a passion for bow hunting. And let us know how you did out there.
I was fortunate enough to put a good shot on a nice buck, a nice trad buck at 9-pointer. We had a great opportunity for John to take one the last day.
So we're excited to see these replays here from John Demmer. And if you watch his shot, I'll tell you what, and I'm going to draw a similarity here. He looks a lot like Brady Ellison when he releases.
Oh, yes.
Very similar form.
Yes, he definitely has the right muscles engaged, and his positions and movements are just absolutely perfect.
Just really beautiful shooting from these guys, so much talent, and I'm so excited to see the standing. It is now like almost a standing room only crowd.
Sure.
They are surrounding both sides of the shooting platform, and if you were ever questioning whether people are interested in barebow shooting, I suggest you go and pick up a barebow rig and get started.
Absolutely.
Because clearly there's money in this division, there's excitement about this division, and a heck of a lot of participation.
Absolutely. Yeah, this class is just growing at a huge level.
We have about 1,800 people watching on our live stream platform.
Oh,
and
that's great.
the level of participation, the fan base for barebow is just growing and growing by leaps and bounds. You mentioned earlier that, well, we'll come back to that. Let's watch these guys shoot. It's
I'm really
too exciting
nervous.
to miss. So we're at 26 all. Demmer executes a beautiful shot. I think he caught
Calls
that 10.
out a 10.
Yep.
Wow.
So let's see what Richard's got.
Man.
Ooh, he hits the 11.
Man, he is on fire. It's so funny. We had all 4 of the qualifiers recording on our podcast earlier on today, and all 4 of them were talking about what they were doing mentally leading up to this final competition. And Richard was, kind of talking about not being here before. And man, he's just doing such a great job.
This is absolutely fantastic.
Man.
Look at Richard. He's super solid. Left side of the 9. What's John going to do? He looks super determined there. Bow jumps forward.
Oh, nice. Keeping it in the yellow.
So he's got a nice 28 down there. Richard needs an 8 or better.
It looks
And
like
he
Richard
does.
takes the lead. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Wow.
This is a dark horse story here. I mean,
Yes,
he's knocked
it
down
is.
3 of them. He's on his way.
Once in a while, even the blind nut gets a squirrel. So.
Nice shooting, Rich. That last shot was just, it was perfection. Absolute perfection. Very nice. Nice shooting, guys, both of you. Triple golds. Really an awesome display for shooting unsighted with very little to aid you. The discipline that this takes, the concentration this takes is incredible. It's the greatest challenge in archery. Okay, let's take a look at the scores. We've got 57 for Rich Barker, 54 for John Demmer. Let's give him a hand.
We've got some replay action here, and take a look at Richard and just that sheer determination, beautiful execution. He's so consistent.
Man, just driving that right into the 11.
I'll tell you what, I would not want to shoot against Richard Barker today.
No, not
It's going to
today.
be very interesting to see what John Demmer comes up with here.
John's shooting first. You can see him making a crawl here, down to about ½ inch. Looks like he's going to wait Richard's arrow. And man, another 9.
So he drops maybe a point there. Let's just see what John's got.
Okay.
9 for 9. So he's been holding, if we look at the holes, if we look at the pattern in the left side of John's target, if he had a sight, he'd be moving it, but
That's
he
right.
clearly does not. So what's he going to do to adjust for the left and right?
So at this point in the stage, he's not going to want to change his plunger, so he's not going to use the plunger to move him over. He's probably going to adjust his string blur in his sight picture. He's going to probably pull that a little bit tighter to his face to move it over to the right. So if you move your string blur to the left in your sight picture, that's going to move the tip of your arrow or your impacts to the right on the target.
And so now we see that John has closed the gap a little bit. He's only 1 point behind Richard. And Richard throws an 8.
Let's see what John can do here.
And an
Okay,
8.
and another 8.
I'll tell you what, that was an interesting.
That was.
It's very interesting.
So it looks like he gained 2 points on him.
So scores can change more quickly. You know, that's a result of not having a really refined aiming device on the bow. So anything can happen. And right now, this is really, really tight, 82, 81. 3 more arrows remaining. Last year, it came down to the last end as well, possibly the last arrow, if I remember correctly. But there's nothing like watching a match like this. 2 people that admire and respect one another. I know Rich has been looking up to John for a couple years now, and just being here, shooting with him on this stage that you've put up here for them, I think is a great honor for them both. This is a quick look at the new Barebow trophies we have. It's a giant chunk of stainless steel. These were done through the sponsorship from those companies that are sponsoring the Barebow event. So thanks to those sponsors, Spigarelli, Yost, CD, Galaxy, Gilo, and TradTech.
We're excited to be back here, and we've got a super close match. We've got John Demmer's second and third shots happening here, that beautiful follow-through. But he's out in the 8 ring there, so this is a very close 1-point match.
Within a point. I mean, my heart's pounding right now.
This is undoubtedly one of the best matches we've seen all day, if not the best.
Absolutely.
It's very, very exciting. Super happy for the success of both of these gentlemen. Richard has just been on fire today. Of course, John is one of the best of the best.
Yes.
So if you had to guess, is there an outcome yet, or you don't know?
Oh man, I gotta go with John. I just gotta think that he's gonna hold it steady. I mean, with the competition that he's been used to, it's all a mental game here. Both these guys have proven that.
But that's an 11. But dude, that's an 11
I know,
right there.
He's making me eat my words right now.
What is
Let's see what
John
John's gonna respond.
Ooh, there's
little
a
hiccup
little bit
there.
of a twitch there, and he
there it
shoots
is.
an 8.
All right, let's see what Rich is doing.
And they're
He's
calling that a 7, actually.
Yes, he's calm
now
and collected.
that makes a big difference.
Yes, it does. Richard's just in his game right now.
But Richard puts one out in the same spot.
John needs a couple 11s here. There it is. That's a good stroke.
So he's got a 9 there, and he's looking like he knows he may not have this match.
Yes, he does. 4-point game coming into the last arrow.
And this is Richard's first time here in the finals venue.
Oh my.
Look at that.
Puts it away. Richard Parker.
You cannot say a thing about that. Fantastic shooting.
Incredible.
And the crowd is getting on their feet. This is a standing ovation.
Unbelievable.
Amazing.
Richard
standing
Parker.
ovation.
Richard slays 3 giants.
It's getting hard to talk up here. I know that Rich has looked up to and admired John Demmer. I know it's Rich's dream just to share a stage with John Demmer. I know how much of an honor it is for Rich.
That's absolutely accurate. That's 100% accurate. This is just a dream situation for me, and I couldn't have a better competitor and a better person to shoot against. He's been an inspiration to me. So thank you, John. Thank you for everything.
And let me tell everyone, there's no more generous person in the room that gives of themselves, of their knowledge, their expertise, their decades of experience. Nobody in the room that gives as much to their fellow archer as John Demmer. Let's give John Demmer a hand and a standing ovation.
In second place, John is taking home $1,250 and one of the Barebow trophies. Rich, you're taking home the payout of $3,000 and one of the stainless steel trophies. Congratulations, Rich.
I don't know if Rich is aware of this, but it's tradition that the winner buys dinner for the Barebow group. It's been going on for 4 years. Well, this will be the 4th year. So hopefully it continues.
I hope I'm buying you dinner from now on.
A little bit of sass there.
Absolutely. That's the cool thing about this class, this division, is we are all very good friends, and we're a really close-knit group.
We've got just a few of Richard's shots here that are leading up to the big win, and we just heard that apparently he will be buying dinner for the whole division. That's a big division. I don't know about that. We're going to head out to a break right now.
No, thank you.
This is how we like to do it.
Rich, this has been an unbelievable story this year. People will be talking about it all year. I'm sure you can't wait to come back next year already.
I don't know how I got here. I'm probably a little fresh to ask you to pinch me, but that's great. It's great to be here. This is a wonderful event. I've really enjoyed it. I didn't shoot my best yesterday. I think I flew under the radar a little bit, and I guess I just got hot at the right time. So I appreciate the competitors I shot against, and it's been a wonderful journey.
Well, congratulations. Let's give him a hand. Well done, John.
Thank you. Sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug. Obviously, I was the bug.
Well, come on down, and congratulations. Let's give it up for these two gentlemen and the Barebow community.
So here's something. I'm rejoined here, by the way, by my pal Chuck Cooley. Chuck, thanks for coming back.
Hey, everybody.
This is something interesting to point out. I have to say it. The room is clearing out a little bit now that Barebow is over. Chuck, the reception to this Barebow division has been amazing.
You know, it was kind of cool. I mean, I got the opportunity, you know, when I was out of the booth there to actually kind of watch that, and you know, I don't get to see that kind of stuff all that time, and you know, there was a lot of energy in the room, and immediately after the shots, I mean, everybody stood up and cheered. It was really fantastic. I really enjoyed it. You know, it's really good to see that a Barebow division is the premier. It's like the all-star event of the day now all of a sudden, and we haven't had that in years.
No,
you know?
people
so
are
it's really
so excited.
exciting. Yeah.
And speaking of Barebow, I just want to give a quick thanks and shout out to Matt, who came in and sat in with me. Just an absolute Barebow expert, did a wonderful job. We're seeing some last shots here from the last match. And we want to, if you're interested in getting more information about Barebow, well, first of all, obviously come straight to Lancaster Archery Supply. We heard John Wirt and Rob Koffel talk about the resources that are available to archers, but also want to give a quick plug for Matt's podcast, which is The Push, a traditional archery podcast. Take a look for that. You can get some great information right there.